Hello, and thank you once again for joining me in Duty Found. This week we'll be going into Haukke Manor. This is the 6th dungeon in Final Fantasy XIV, and as always, I'll be going in as a white mage today, so you'll be able to see from a healer's perspective. Now, this is a fun dungeon. It's actually the first where there's a potential for even a first-time participant to be having a job. It is a level 31 cap, as you can see here. So, it looks like we've got a Dragoon, a Warrior, and a Lancer. The Lancer is probably in here for the first time, or close to it, leveling up. So, we'll be able to get a nice view of how things are going. Now, as this is the first time that I am above the level 30 threshold, I'll actually get some of my job abilities, I believe. Okay, it looks like I get Presence of Mind this time around. Let's see, do I have any other tools that I did not have last time? Nope, looks like that's about it. I may have additional cross-class skills, but that'll become evident as we go. Presence of Mind is a fun little ability for white mages. It basically doubles your spell speed. It's not terribly long duration, but it is quite handy there. I mostly use it when I have to get a large amount of throughput out in a short period of time, or if I'm just trying to get some DPS out. Helps pad the numbers a little bit. See, the tank is numbering different targets. That's handy in lower dungeons to help the DPS focus. It eases the load on the tank for having to spread their attentions to different mobs, and also makes it easier for healers, as the DPS are less likely to be stealing the hate when they're focusing on the same one. There are tiny keys all throughout this dungeon. Collect them to get into rooms to either progress deeper into the dungeon or take some of the side paths. We'll see how the tank takes us. It looks like they're in here for XP, so we may actually get to explore the whole dungeon. This is one of the earlier times that you'll actually see full clears starting to happen. The previous dungeons are pretty tedious, so you'll see a lot of skips, but from this point on, I'd probably say at least half of all clears are full clears, or close to it. So, DPS learn very quickly that their queues can take a very long time, so you want to maximize your amount of kills taken in the dungeon. Get the most out of those, sometimes as much as an hour-long queue. Here I am talking, almost let the tank die. See these Manor maidservants. They're on pull. They'll drop that AOE. That can be stunned, but if it's not stunned, anyone that's caught in the AOE will take a fair bit of damage as well as be terrorized. Terrorized is similar to a stun effect, but it tends to last a fair bit longer. That I didn't do that. Running into rooms ahead of the tank is a good way to get aggro. Leveling up early, or as you get into the later on dungeons, that's not always a good thing. In fact, that's almost always a bad thing. Nice thing about having a warrior tank is they are healed additionally over what they normally would be. They have a stance, Defiance. This is probably the first time you've seen it on this channel. It increases their max HP, increases their enmity generated, so it's easier for them to hold hate, and increases heals received. The drawback to this, however, is they do less damage while under Defiance. We also get Wrath stacks here, that raises their crit rate, so it kind of counterbalances some of the loss of damage by being in stance by getting more crits. The Wrath stacks can also be used once you hit 5 as sort of a charged up ability. We've got several. At this level, actually, they don't have access to any, so it's neither here nor there. Pretty solid party today. This could be a pretty quick dungeon. It's a nice turnaround from last week. Oh my goodness. Alright. Treasure chest. There's a couple potions, nothing too fancy. And we'll move on. Now this is a fun little hallway here. There's 4 mobs in this pole right here. And there's also 2 of those maidservants that wander back and forth across the hall. So if you don't pull back like this, like our tank just did, you will run into problems. They'll aggro in, and if you're not on point with the tanks and the heals, and even the DPS, you can have a wipe right here. Luckily, the tank knows what he's doing. Hold it back. So no problem at all. Arrow across the board, get that ticket. Switch back to heals, no problem at all. Oh, that's right. We got 2 abilities at 30. We got Cure 2. This is the first time I've had access to that. It is Staple of Staples. Treat for it yet. I do not. Oh well, say let me 1 level off from that. Well, regardless, Cure 2 has quite a bit more potency than Cure 1. So when you need to drop big cures when the tank takes a lot of damage, Cure 2 will get them feeling right as rain quicker than anything else. Fine point to note, however, Cure 2 does cost double the MP of Cure 1. At this level, 41 and 82 respectively. So you'll definitely want to rein in the use and get into good habits of using Cure 1 more often than Cure 2. Looks like we're skipping this little pull here, but there's just 3 mobs, so that's nothing to worry about. And this is the first boss of the dungeon. Nothing too fancy here. It is a beefy version of those maidservants we've been fighting earlier. One thing that is nice to take care of, warriors and marauders have a skill Berserk, as you can see there. When it wears down, they are pacified and can't use weapon skills, but the pacification can be removed with an Asuna or leeches, depending on what sort of healer you are. It's a very small window to get it, as the pacification is only 5 seconds long, but if you're able to land it, your warrior will be able to get an additional 2 hits off that they wouldn't have otherwise. So it's more damage, more hate, and in general it's just a good half to get into. You'll impress your tanks quite often if you manage to land those. See, it does the Dark Mist move that the others did. This can be stunned, but warriors have an off-global stun ability, but it does have a cooldown of, I believe, 20 seconds. If you get a paladin or a gladiator, they have an on-global, so they can't do it whenever it comes up, but it's not on the cooldown. So its only cooldown is the global cooldown. Fun little thing, little trick there. Fluid Aura, when you can push things, interrupts channel abilities like that. So, may not be able to stun, but knock her out of the way. One thing I probably mentioned before, Fluid Aura annoys tanks and DPS quite a bit when it does move things. So I try to hold back on it, except for when it's targets that I know won't be pushed or aren't currently being engaged, like with that Dark Mist when it pulled everyone back, or when everyone pulled away from it. Alright, that first boss dropped a green key, as you see here in the log. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, you can't see it in the log, I got that covered. Anyway, it dropped a green key, we'll use to get into this ivy door. Move on to the rest of the dungeon, but we are picking up the rest of the mobs here. There is another room down here past the way. It actually only has a chest in it. There are no monsters in that room. So, if you're going to skip one, that'd be a decent one. So we'll open up the door and move on. And one thing to be careful of, if you are a scholar healing this dungeon, your fairy does not play well with heights. Quite often, tanks will fight this pack of mobs down at the bottom, and if you're up here with your fairy actually won't notice that your tank needs healed, and so if you're just sitting there DPSing, your tank is going to go down and you'll just be standing around wondering why. So, if you're a scholar, come on down here with the party, or manually control your pet, whichever, but personally I don't manually control at low levels. It's easier to just let them do the thing. Scholar. And then down the rest of the way, there's another pack right here, as well as another key. So while the tank is good on health, I'm going to apply a few dots. Maybe a stone. Or two. Let's be a little ambitious here. Alright, and tank gets low, so we'll cure 2, give that nice big heal off, and back to business as usual. Key element to getting dungeons done quickly is to be able to DPS as much as you're able to find your comfort zone. With a lot of times, you don't really need to babysit tanks nearly as much as you would think. They're okay if they're around 50% or so, as long as there's no big hits coming in, or you know what's coming. So, being familiar with the dungeons, being familiar with the fights and the mobs you're fighting can help go a long way to speed dungeons up, because you'll know more accurately what the right cure is for the right situation and how much you can let the tank do their own thing before you have to step in. Like this one, I'm not going to heal at all. I'm just going to help DPS and this mob will die before I need to heal. Like so. There's a room here with another treasure chest. Tank's going to go ahead and grab that. See, I have 3 cross-class abilities at this level. So I've got my Swift Cast, my Fry, and Virus. Those are all good skills. I don't know if you've seen Virus with me yet. Virus reduces the target's strength by 15% for a duration of 10 seconds. When it drops off, however, mobs become immune to Virus for a minute. So it's not something you can continuously apply with multiple players anymore. It's good for when you know big hits are coming in, like if you know a tank buster's coming, or even just on cooldown for 10 seconds of 10% or 15% less damage. That's going to be pretty significant, especially if you're having trouble keeping up on heals. It's an off-global spell, and it has no cast time, so I'm just going to throw that out there willy-nilly. Okay, there are 2 keys in this room. Tank's gonna go over there and grab one. I'll grab the other. There's an optional room here, but we've got mobs to take care of, so let's go for it. Applying dots 23 and throwing out some damage. This is really around the range that healing gets to be fun. You have a lot more options. Your heals are strong enough that you can let things go for a little bit before you shift back in. So it really just is a nice way to, or at least a nice range right here. Pull this before it gets over to us. That way we can get it before it runs into the crowd and before there's more mobs out in the way. So there's another pull right around the corner. Having this in the middle of it can be a little problematic. As you can see, it's a big pull over there. There's 4 mobs. Having a 5th in there could be a little hectic. Throw an eye for an eye on the tank. If you remember before, it has the potential to reduce incoming damage pretty well, so with a bigger pull like this, it's quite nice to have. Refresh my dots, so I've got a little bit of time. And quick, get that heal out. There we go. Crisis averted, problem solved. Okay, there's a room there that just has a chest around the corner. Not really anything too much to worry about. Three mobs in here, as well as the yellow key over here. The yellow key will need to get into the next boss room. Okay, so with the yellow key in hand, we're going to hop up over this barricade. There's an optional pull here. Pick up the key and be on our way over to the boss. And this boss is actually two different mobs, you'll see as we get the door open. We've got a skeleton and an imp. You will want to take care of the imp first. It's a caster and it has some annoying abilities as well as the ability to apply slow. That's an annoying ability to be sure. So throw a little bit of damage out and throw a dot on the skeleton as well. Heal out and time's a little off, so I didn't quite get to Suna there. A little early. But we'll go ahead and Suna that slow off. The Lancer, get him doing more damage. Things look okay, so I'm able to throw out some damage of my own. Alright, and that's one of the bosses down. The second will be much easier, as there's just one of them. Focus your attentions. At this point in the dungeon, you'll want to use return. You can run back to the next area, but it's much easier to return to the entry point of the dungeon, and then just take this flight of stairs up. And with the parchment that we got from that last boss, we can open up that gate. There's the sentry up here that we'll need to beat on a little bit to get him to open the way to the last boss. So if you're in a quick run, you could just pop this and run right on through and go straight from the second boss to the third. We are likely to go this way first, however. Get this pack of mobs and then another around the way. One thing to be wary of, these servitors' lanterns are caster mobs. They don't have a melee attack, so they won't actually come up to you to engage unless you break line of sight. So you need to be careful as a tank to get things clustered up properly, so you're able to hesitate on things and whatnot. these mobs, there's quite a few of these lanterns here, if you break line of sight, they'll all come to you. Make it much easier for everybody to get all the targets. While they're taking care of things, I'll go ahead and get the chest taken care of. I'm actually leveling a dex-based class now, so I'm going to go ahead and toss a greed on that. If I win it, I win it. If not, so be it. Okay, and that's all for the optional rooms. It looks like we skipped 2 somewhere in the dungeon, and we have 2 keys, but it's not terribly pressing. I think we got all the mobs. Those are just 2 empty rooms. Okay. The little mini-boss here, the sentry, is an Ahriman. Uses gaze attacks. Believe it paralyzes. This one is paralyzed gaze. So, pretty easy to dodge. Gives you a nice frontal cone indicator. So you only have to get to about half. There we go. It's going to become untargetable and run to open the door. And this brings us to the last boss of Haukke Manor. This actually can be a difficult boss if you're just getting started. It has a couple mechanics that do decent damage. There are adds, and the boss actually is pretty potent in and of herself. As a tank, there's a few things you can do to make it easier. She has 2 major attacks. She will use Void Fire 3 and Void Thunder 3, both of which can be line of sighted. So if they're on the tank, you can just run straight through her and she'll lose sight and she'll lose her cast. So it saves a fair bit of damage. Then the mechanic, there are 4 lamps in the room, and periodically throughout the fight they will light up and start spewing fire about. Go. See the... Yeah, it looks like the tank knows what he's doing. Either stunned that or line of sighted it, so he didn't take that damage. Go to get a fresh protect on everybody. Alright, and that is our action to indicate that the lamp started. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and pop these while we can. And as a healer, I don't need my TP, so I can sprint and not worry about it, so I can get 2 of them. And I'm going to catch that pacify. Get the tank back in the action. And let's throw some damage out. We're looking okay. Looks like the tank probably doesn't realize they can line of sight this, so it's alright, we'll just be in for a little bit more damage. Alright, I'll get the lamps again. There are 4, there's 2 on the other ends of the room. DPS are usually responsible for 1 each. And the adds do spawn. There will be 2 ladies' candles, 1 already popped, and there's the second. Oftentimes I'll ignore the ladies' candles. They will self-destruct, so you just let them do their thing and stand out of range. See, I do have hate on many of these ads. They hit pretty hard, too. heals out. Oh my! Tank there. But that is where Swiftcast comes in. Raise off. No problems. Line of sight the Void Thunder there, so I won't take any damage from that. Now that the ads are down, not a problem. I'm likely to have hate for the rest of this. So, just keep an eye on my health and her action bar, see what she's doing. Fire 3, I'll line of sight that, so it won't go off. Stand back in front, so the tank and Void Thunder, I'll line of sight that as well. Go. She's got her thing going out. Nope. Alright, and looks like tank got hate. Here we go. Alright, well, as I had mentioned, this boss can be a little bit harder. It gets a little hectic there, but we came through. I got to play hero. And that's always fun. I'm gonna go ahead and give the tank a commendation. They got clipped by that AoE, but it's alright. It was a good run. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and call that one. Thank you once again for joining me on Duty Found. Today we went through Haukke Manor, the 6th dungeon in Final Fantasy XIV, and that should do it for us tonight. Next time, if you care to join me, we'll be going through Brayflox's Long Stop. This is kind of the crucible that a lot of players go through, so it's an interesting dungeon to say the least. Alright, thank you once again for joining me, and have a good night, everybody.